Welcome to the Lean Practice Podcast. I'm Angus, joined with Aaron and Nathan, and the idea here is pretty simple. It's three of us just talking about the profession, what's working, what's not, and what's not being spoken about but probably should be. Between us, we've seen bullshit advice that's causing chiros to quit the profession by the time they're 40, and we'd like to just help put an end to that. We aren't really in this to tell you what to do, how to do it, or what the best playbook is. We're here to just show you what it actually looks like to build a practice around the life that you want, rather than the one someone else drew up for you. That's really it. Let's get into it.
Nathan's back from his big holidays. Up and down, or just down? Up the
Up and
west
down.
coast. Up and
Yeah,
down.
went up
Where'd you
to
go?
just went to the Pilbara region, heading up towards Tom Price in Western Australia, the red dirt country, which the car will be covered in red dirt. It's the father-in-law's car, conveniently. Even after I took it through a wash, scrubbed it, high pressure hosed it, still red as shit. So once you get red dirt in, it don't get out.
No,
Unfortunately,
and it gets in
just
too. It's not just the outside; it gets in everything.
red dirt is the dirt equivalent of a boomer wellness owner, whereas once that philosophy is entrenched, you just can't get it out.
Oh, I love that little jab in the first minute. Um, all right, so
They
what we
mean
want to
well.
talk about, here is I've had some convos this week and last, largely with associates who have been burnt in their associate role, and now they want to either drop out of the profession or they want to start again in their own thing. And naturally, it's a struggle with marketing. I don't know what I'm doing. Then it's I don't like the sales process. I don't think any chiro likes the sales process. I think we've all felt that. So we want to pull it apart and really try and work out what the real problem is, because I think if you're selling something, you've already missed the point. There's other issues that happen before then. Whenever I used to train associates, if they're like, oh, this part of my report of findings, they always say no to the money. It's like, yeah, look further upstream. You probably missed something in the new patient exam. Now that I've got all my experience, it's like, I think you've actually missed something before you even engage the person. Like there's a problem way back there. So the guy that we're referring to here who explained it the best, and I cannot say his name, but I'm going to try.
I
Naval
can.
Ravikant.
Ravikant.
Ravikant. Naval
Yeah.
Ravikant wrote a great book. My favorite one was that white and black one, just like what's it called? The Almanac.
The Almanac of Naval. He's actually got I found it on a podcast one time because he went through this tweet storm of, I think it was how to get rich was the concept, right? It's like and this guy just sits there and just dissects with him on a podcast all his tweets. It is a great 90 minutes of your time from just conceptual ideas. But yeah,
Yeah, he's a
Naval,
smart
and I
dude.
think Super Smart, well-known angel investor across Silicon Valley. I'd say him and Seth Godin are the real goats in a lot of these areas. Those are my two that I leverage off for a lot of the deeper understandings. Also, crew that have been around and done the work and been successful for a long time,
Yeah.
which is always good to
Yeah.
see, right? And we're continuously updating. Again, unlike the boomer we were just talking
The
about.
boomers. Yeah. And also pretty humble. They kind of know they don't know everything, but they just sort of say, this is what I've seen. What he said in a very nice, simple way, probably was a tweet, was if you've got a sales problem, if you have to sell, it's because you got bad marketing. And if you have to market, it's because you got a bad product. And I think that rings true very well for our industry. I did a video the other day on it, which is I don't think chiros have ever thought out what their product is, and we can go into the details on that stuff as we go through. But Nath, in your experience, you've obviously done a lot of associate training, mentoring. Sales is always the thing that comes up. It's always the problem. What are you seeing? What's the common thought pattern that we're stuck in as chiros that you noticed?
I think it's the idea that you shouldn't have to sell in healthcare. In fact, I had one of the orthopedic surgeons I look after the other week saying that doctors shouldn't advertise. And I thought it was a really interesting, he was critiquing another orthopedic surgeon who's very big on social media. He's like, well, they shouldn't advertise, it's a sort of a faux pas thing. And it reminded me that they're in a system that's never required advertising because we have a Medicare-based system in Australia that basically funds everybody in.
Yeah.
And so only people that aren't in private practice or aren't in a system that doesn't require them to advertise shit on advertising, right? I think the concept that most allied health practitioners or health practitioners and this is the same in the US, they have to advertise for everything, right? Because it's all private pay. So just different systems, different times. But one of the things I think people don't get is that realistically, as a health practitioner, you're basically a salesman first, patient a second. That is the reality of practice. You have to be able to sell yourself and your product to someone before you have the chance to even prove that it is clinically worthy. Everyone wants to just be like, we have this great product, so people should just come and get it. And it's just not a thing. Like, people aren't just going to find you. This isn't that. I've heard James Chestnut talk about the Mercedes 80s in Canada, where people were just like, the government started funding chiropractic as part of healthcare, and their clinics were thriving because they didn't have to market. This isn't a thing. Not here anyway, in Australia. So you have to do this. You have to get good at this. You just, not just you have to get good at it, actually, it's you should want to get good at it.
Yep.
It comes back to that idea I think we've spoken about before, is like, you should be able to be thrown out of an airplane with a parachute anywhere. And assuming that you can speak the language, you should be able to build your clinic and a successful clinic. If you have that skill, that ability to market, to know your product, to sell and show value and get that value exchanged, then you'll never feel weird about it. You'll have thriving practices wherever you go. And life's pretty sweet. But people don't seem to want to learn those sides of the skills. It's always like, what's the best adjustment? Is it Kairos? Is it Syntropy? Is it ABC? It's like, it actually don't matter.
Doesn't
Newsflash,
fucking
and
matter.
I love
Yeah.
adjusting. I love manual adjustment, but it actually don't matter because people are getting people doing network and getting great thriving things to get people busy. Activator only, you want to be confident and good at your skill, but people are like, I see these things where they're like, I'm X certified, and like if that's something that you want to do and go through the process and have proof that you've done the thing, great. But patients don't give a like. I'm again, Nathan's going on his lateral tangents, but I have a person that I mentored, and I remember going onto their website when I was first working with them, and you could book a regular appointment with IA, and I'm just like, the amount of confusion on this page right now. No, and they're like, yeah, I'm lucky. Sometimes I'll get that one new patient every week or two, but I'm not really seeing. Like today, I've got no one booked. I did take a space in the GP office, and they promised they would send me people, but they haven't really lived up to that. I'm like, but it doesn't seem to me like you even know what you do. You're just selling a bunch of features and no value, and creating confusion, which is a barrier to people entering.
Yeah. All right. Let's just attack the snake at the face. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
saying, but anyway, it is now.
We're going for it.
Is that
I
a
think you
saying?
go
No.
after the tail, don't you, with snakes? Usually, isn't that
What
the
do you
safe
take by
place?
the head? I don't know, mate.
Grab
I've
that.
never picked up a snake.
You grab by the head.
Yeah, fuck it.
That's
By
a
the face.
that is
So
that's a dangerous guy. All right, snake by the face. That
the
is now the
product.
quote for any in-person thing we do.
Do snakes have faces or they just have heads?
Right, well, geez, we got. If you had some edibles this morning, just. What's the thing with she's like, fish don't have faces, they have profiles. So that's why you can eat them and not feel bad.
God.
Oh dear. This is why people are tuning out.
So we're going for the product because this is just it. And I'm going for exactly what you just said then. So for the listeners, a product stack is when you have a TV infomercial on and they say you can get the Nicer Dicer Slicer Plus and it's $80. But we're also going to throw in the fry pan and the fridge magnet and this, and it's all still $80. A product stack is a stack of products for a discount, and it builds value, so you buy it. So you feel like you're getting more value than what you're paying for, even though they still make money off that before they throw the other stuff in. So a product stack in Cairo, which I know we do because I've been freaking script trained on it, is to be like, you get 12 adjustments over 6 weeks, you get cupping, NMR, exercises, this, that. Exactly the thing you just told me about that guy's website. That is all the same fucking product. So that's like the Nicer Dicer guy being like, oh, you get a plastic handle on it and a knife blade and it's like, that isn't a product stack. That's just pulling a product apart. It's different. A product stack is all of the things that you do to solve the problem that you want to solve. So naturally, for Kairos, when people want to solve, like they'll be like, all we have to talk about is Cairo. And it's because all they do is Cairo. So then they have Cairo and then they try and market that Cairo and all they talk about is Cairo. And then they try and sell it. And what they're trying to sell is 12 adjustments and that doesn't solve a problem, nor does it add value because it's just like, you just want me to come here 12 times. Hence, we hate marketing and sales, sorry. So if we go back to the product is not chiropractic. The product is the problem that you solve. That is you, the chiropractor. I'll argue anyone on that all day. The problem then that you solve has to be more complex than just getting adjusted. I don't think there's anything that's just like getting adjusted. It's like, I want to make people healthy. Oh, I'll adjust them. That doesn't mean that they lose 20 kilos. It's like there's other things that get done. So the whole argument of like nervous system regulation, all that stuff, cool. But what else do you do to regulate a nervous system because it's not just adjusting. And we all know that. Even the most philosophy boomer bro will tell you, well, they'll be like, oh, yeah, well, you probably should drink more water and walk. There's other things that need to be done. So developing your product is developing what you naturally talk about to achieve the goal that you try and achieve. When you're talking with patients, you will naturally bring stuff up, like walking, movement, sleep, stress, diet, exercise, whatever. Nathan, what?
I know. I just want to like put this in because I think you're on an absolute tear here. What Ains is saying is, yeah, all the things you do to solve the problem. It doesn't mean you have to handle all the things. And I think this is where a lot of people get lost, is the idea of like, as you're building out your product stack there's so many things that we can do for people to get healthy, right? The list is enormous and we all know they're good. And then I think where a lot of the newer chiropractors get stuck is they think they need to handle all of it. And then what you actually need to do is build, like you said, for the problem you solve, what are the core things that are within your wheelhouse that you want to do? And that is your product stack. This is what you handle in that journey to that. And then perhaps you either send them to other people that you work with to handle stuff that you don't want to handle, or it's lesser, it's more, it's not the low hanging fruit. It's the stuff that's deeper and you can transition people down that pathway should they get there on their journey.
Exactly. And I would even just add to that, it's not just the young cars, it's all of them because it's so you would naturally talk about stuff in your practice. So if you want to figure out what your product stack is, listen to yourself for a day and you'll probably bring up 5 or 6 topics with people. And it's like, they're probably your things. They're the things that you like talking about. For me, one of the things was like ergonomics. Like when people used to come to me with like chronic issues, same job, and I sort of had a gut feeling that they just had terrible habits and that sort of stuff. It was like, okay, let's start with your office and let's start with your bed. What are we dealing with here? And so that was just a thing. I wouldn't say I'm passionate about ergonomics, but it's definitely something that I thought made a difference for people. So it's like, how about you get a new chair because it's 15 years old and it's a piece of shit, and that you're 7 foot in a chair that's made for a child? Things like that. So you'll have things in your product stack that you enjoy talking about. Then you can, as Nate said, you don't have to develop protocols to fix things, but you can just have like a list of non-negotiables. Like it might just be like drink 4 liters of water a day. How much do you need to develop to be able to tell someone to drink 4 liters of water a day? Like it's not really adding more stuff. It's just solving the problem that you want to solve. Then if you want to take that to marketing, that's the stuff you talk about. So you don't have to just talk about chiro. You can talk about the effects of dehydration on the body, like all of this other stuff. And for once in our lives, we won't be like saying these huge claims, which is chiropractic fixes dehydration. It's like, no, dude, it's like, that's a part of the thing that you do. I've got a great example of someone actually. Do you have anything to chime in, Nath, or are you good for me to just rant?
Go. I'm here.
Go.
I'm enjoying the
All right.
journey.
I had a good chat with a guy the other day who, from his own experience, had issues like falling pregnant with his partner. Realized it was him that there was like a process that men are supposed to go through. It's like a 90-day thing. It's like a sperm cycle or something. I obviously didn't listen very well, but anyway. And so he's like now gone into like supplementation, men's health, all that sort of stuff. Also now just practicing as a family chiro though. So he hadn't linked the two things together at all. And he's like, I don't know if I should go all in on this or all in on this. And it's like, okay, go all in on the problem. So men's health, go all in on that issue. It's like, okay, now, would you say that men's health will be fixed with chiropractic adjustments? No. Is it a part of something that might help? Yes. Okay, what else is a part of that problem? Supplementation, exercise, diet, stress, all this stuff. Lists out all this stuff. And it's like, okay, so your product stack is all of those things. And if they do all of those things, then the odds of the men's health side improving are pretty high. And that's not a wild claim to make because you're not saying one of those things fixes it. You're saying the protocol fixes it. That's a product. That's what we're trying to say here. With the supplementation, obviously, there's a bit more information that you need to get and make sure you do it legally. You're not going outside your scope, but you kind of get the point. It's like you've got a range, you've got a product, you've got a protocol. And if you apply that protocol to a problem, you probably will help because you've actually got some depth.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, I think, again, that comes back to what we just talked about before. And that's some applause for dropping that in. But yeah, like one of the things I think we've got to come back to with a lot of this as well is that we are caught with marketing in the concept that we're selling an adjustment because we can't sell a solution, Because
Yeah.
in Australia, we can't be like, your back pain gone in 6 weeks because you're not allowed to. Whereas most, non-qualified therapists, that's what they're selling. You've never seen someone who's done a 1 week yoga retreat more confident in fixing your everything, right? But the point being, like you said, you can still have, hey, what we work with a lot is men going through fertility struggles, and we do that by helping their body be healthier. We do that through reviewing their movement strength through chiropractic. We do it through supplementation protocols. Here's the research to suggest how these things help, and stress relief and all these things. And then you have a clear, defendable position. You're not guaranteeing results, but this is what the research suggests, and APRA will support that. You can advertise for that, and everyone is having a good time.
Yeah. And it's like just like logically less like it's realistic. It's like, yeah, if you most problems are probably going to be fixed with like movement, good nutrition, good sleep, and stress management.
Yeah,
Whatever that
and
means.
maybe some movement, right?
Yeah. That was my first one.
I did not. All right.
Um,
I just wanted to say it again. That's how important
yeah.
it is. I heard stress
Yeah.
management and just was like movement.
Yeah. But then it's what a lot of chiros are saying is like most problems will be solved with chiropractic. And it's because that's the only that doesn't make sense. That's
all they
when you're
have.
getting on that's when you're getting on old mate's MD's meme train and he's calling you out. It's like it doesn't make sense. And then so once you understand your product, then you can understand why marketing's been so hard. Because if you can only talk about chiro and then you can't talk about testimonials, what the hell do you talk about? Like honestly, what do you talk about? You talk about what you do, which is here's my Gonstead certification and why I'm such a legend. Chuck that in the bio. As we just said, no one cares. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't solve the problem. So when you open up what your product does, then all of a sudden your marketing can open up a lot more because you can talk about all of those things. You can talk about those things in conjunction, in individual, like isolation. Then you apply it to a person. So once you got your product right, you need to work out who that product's going to work for. And every chiro is afraid to niche down, which is infuriating, but it's just what works. So niching down to niching down is the difference between like running a broad family practice that you just see people all day and you don't really feel anything and walking in every day and having the best time of your life. Like it's literally like the difference between brand and not having a brand. So I think it's the difference between enjoying the way you practice and not enjoying the way you practice. Not because you hate the people that you see, but because you sort of have to like them because they're there and they're paying you, and you never gave yourself the chance to go and do the thing that you wanted to do, which might have been working with basketball players. Who knows? But once you got your protocol, you can pick your audience, and that doesn't mean that you only work with basketball players because those players are going to bring in their baseball mates and they're going to bring in their NRL mates, and then they're going to tell their wives all to come in and their kids to come in. So you're still going to end up with a range, but instead of constantly pushing and using advertising and being broad and meaning nothing to no one, you're going to start to pull, and it like really starts to pull to the point you can't handle the load, and it's like you have to get even more niche down. So to solve the product, then the marketing starts to get a lot easier because you're actually talking to someone. Then on the sales side of things, or do you want to add anything to the marketing side before we move to sales?
I think it's just getting rid of the fear. Right? I've never understood the fear with niching. Like once you explain the concept, that's like you can choose to appeal to no one or be well heard by the people you actually want to see. It should make perfect sense. And to come back to what you said before, like if you want to have a standard like diversified family practice, that's also a niche. Like if that's what you really enjoy, you niche to family practice. You look after parents and their children. Jeez, Nathan, go country for a bit and I'll lose all my English. But the whole point is that it's still a niche. But like you said, it comes back to that idea of if we're not getting fulfillment in practice, then we're not looking after the right people because you should be able to have it all, right? It should be fun, it should be fulfilling, and it should be profitable. And if you're trying to market something that is not you just because you've seen someone else do it well, and I think we see this a lot in newer grads where they'll get a mentor or they'll get someone they see on these days Instagram, and they'll be like, I want to practice like that person. But they want to look after bodybuilders. They've never lifted a weight. They don't
Yeah.
like the sport. Oh, I want to look after infants. I've never actually been around kids. I don't really want to. I don't want to do advanced training. It just makes they're just following thing. And there's again, as we all know with Instagram, you're getting a highlight reel. There's a lot of people that have got big followings and small practices. No, that doesn't necessarily mean that a small practice is a problem before someone bites my ear off in the comment section here. But you have to know that you want that style. Do you actually like that niche? Do you care about solving that problem? Do you like those people? Can they afford to pay you? And could you do this long term? Because then you can market into it. And then marketing is not a chore; it's easy. And that's
And
like
it's as you say, like the family practice is a thing,
it's a
but I
niche.
know people just say that because it's a broad answer. So someone will be like,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah, I've got a family practice," and then a mum can't even roll their stroller into the room because it's too tight.
yeah,
And you don't have a family practice. You're just saying that.
yeah. You just liked the idea. And
Yeah,
listen, most practices are just it's a redundancy of a practice that usually has been around forever and has never committed to anything, and it grandfathered its way into this diversification. It can also
yeah,
be, and this is probably a really important one for any person looking at a contract, if you're going to go into a practice and they're like, yeah, you can run your own niche, you need to make sure that practice is actually set up to handle your niche, right? Like you said, if someone's running a sports based practice, but they're like, hey, if you want to do more family, kids, we can definitely do that. But like you said, it's all gym equipment and like the actual spaces couldn't fit a pram. That's not going to work. So either there needs to be a renovation or you have to go elsewhere. It's like you
yeah,
can't, it's the old square
yeah.
peg round hole. You can't just force it.
It's yeah, because it's like it's a direct contraindicator. If it's like imagine an elite athlete, they're like, oh yep, got my guy, and then you walk in and there's no weights, no space to like do any functional testing, like the vibe's just off. And it's the exact same for a mum who can't even get her kid in the door. It's if you actually want to help solve their problem, think about the problems that they have, and one of them is being moving the kids around, getting the prams around corners,
Yeah.
like it's such a little amount of effort that makes such a big difference. But you just will never pick it up if you just don't give a shit and if you don't think about it.
And sometimes you have to actually like find out the hard way that you're like, it's, oh, we need to have to, it's just, a lot of it's just simple structure change, right? But people that are listening that are caught in a certain area and they're like, well, my practice, I really want to work with this. My practice won't handle it right now. It doesn't cost that much to make a few renovations, simple ones. You know,
Mm.
widen the space here, add some stuff over there, or just modify. Like I have refit out my place several times because we were changing. And there's this idea that we should just hold on. I don't know what it is about chiropractors. You just have to like hold on to the thing, right? We must hold on to the sacred trust. We must hold on to the way we've always done this. Why can't we evolve? Like, why can't we adapt? Like, why can't we? And I don't know, I'm talking big words here. Sometimes I'm going to drop $1,500 and redo the flooring, and that's going to allow more space for kids to play. Freaking easy here, guys.
Yeah. So if you've had some changes. So something that I know happens particularly in the first 2 years when someone starts their own practice is they don't know what they're settling on. So knowing your problem is a luxury and who you want to solve that problem for. That's basically another word for it is what's your passion in life.
Yeah.
And that's people spend their whole lives trying to work that out. So it's not an easy thing to narrow in on, but if you have a process of define the product, find the person, try it, you probably are going to cycle through a few different avatars and solutions, probably close to what you like originally thought anyway. There's things in your own life that you enjoy working on. So usually it's a reflection. Like I know the problem we want to solve is usually a reflection of a problem that we've experienced or are experiencing. So just like using real life case examples for you, Nath, you've changed your practice a few times. When you first opened that practice to now, what sort of been, would you say there has been a demographic change? Are they changing with you? Why'd you change your space? What was the go?
Yeah, great question. The first always comes back to my life. I started super lean. So I had the basis, right? The only thing I invested in was my tables. I had two great Omni tables. I had like open spaces everywhere. My floor was gym tiles that I taped down. I had a converted desk at the front that I got off Marketplace. So one of the first major renovations to upgrade the space. It was getting nicer. I had some money in the bank to be able to do it. And then I wanted to bring on an associate and I wanted to work across two tables. So we needed to open the space up to facilitate more tables. To be as simple as that. And so I had to like knock out a wall I'd put in for our consult room because I'd made it too big and shorten it up, had to figure things out. Basically, it was just get more modern, pretty, making it nicer, right? Because we had the ability to do this. It wasn't a huge investment. And then the next one was again like, so things you don't realize. Like I used cut down floor mats for so long, gym tiles, because I liked it was actually really good on my feet because you're standing all day around the table. And so standing on like we got beautiful concrete, but that'll kill you if you spend big days on that. I didn't even think about it. Like when I had it done, the guy's like, you've just got flooring edge and tape down. He's like, that is occupational health and safety issue. And I'm like, he said, we'll have to put a cornice thing on that. And I'm like, good to know. So now it's safer. Now people can roll up a pram. They're less likely to trip, all those kind of things. And then I would say my third sort of subtle variation since then have all been for efficiency. Being like, all right, well, you need to better use this space. This is dead space, or this is taking too long. So I'm going to cut a small hole here. I'm going to add this and mount this here. Like, all very simple. Like, up front, we had simple Kmart chairs, like just those. Everyone knows the little white back chair with the four wood legs. We had a limitation of space, so we converted to beautiful wooden benches, allowed more people to sit. Also, I didn't have to have cushions anymore, which were falling all over the place. So a lot of that kind of structural, and I do think I naturally shifted from that dirtier, probably traditional young lifter to the more older lifter as my sort of prime demographic through there. So they sort of came on that journey. And even right now, I'm considering another revamp later this year because I think we could better use the space. Again, it comes back to efficiency. Like, I use half walls. I'm open plan. I use half walls. I'm thinking about taking the half walls out, just going to full open plan again. But also allows me to buy back a good, in a very tight space, 50 squares for my whole practice. I might be able to buy back probably extra meters that I can then put in newer equipment, things like that I might want to add on, which again, as we've talked about previously, I don't add anything that isn't going to generate revenue. So if I'm going to go spend some money on this, it's to better expedite things, make more efficiency, offer more value to people so that the return is there. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, you did. So you went from a scrappier lifting phase, which reflected the practice with the gym matting,
Yeah,
to a bit more civilized, still open plan. Like the actual practice style hasn't necessarily changed too much, but maybe the aesthetics of who you are as a person has. And that's reflected
it. So
in the
it's
space.
probably just the upgrade, right? Went from the scrappy owner operator, getting it going, launch phase, to the more beautiful, flowing, wooden, refined sort of setup, still with an earthiness to it. And now we're looking at keeping that, but even cutting back a bit, going back to the open, because we realize some of the walls we put in actually are not required. And it could allow me to add in other things that I might want to be looking at adding in. Could even put in a little lifting space, because I've always argued that even if I'm working with, I work with a lot of athletes, I don't need a gym. No, a gym is a large amount of overhead and space. And so if you're going to do full rehab sessions, you better be charging for that. Right? And I've always argued that most physios, chiros, and osteos, even ex-physicists at some level, are than most PTs and strength coaches when it comes to actual training. And then they all charge less than most PTs do. So it's never made actual sense. So I've always just worked with a bunch of great strength coaches and I program and they do the work. Now I've got a little bit, I could maybe buy a little bit extra space, put in some simple stuff, because I'm in a place in my career where we're stable, I've got stable associates. If the capacity's there, I might want to offer these times. I might be happy where I'm at, charge at a premium for them, but be able to run through it. So it's an evolution in the next phase of how I want to practice and what my product looks like moving forward, rather than it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, and would you say that even your training style, not chiro training, like gym training, would reflect a more simple but consistent workout now compared to
100%.
10 years ago?
10 years ago, it was all powerlifting, right? Soul scoring was just big 2.5 hour plus sessions. Most days of the week were spent there. Now I'm usually in the gym 3 days a week. It is more dynamic mobility, and then really tightly confined strength work, and then zone 2 and VO2 max training alongside it. So it is more longevity based training. And so with that aside, with some simple mats, a power rack, and maybe some cables, I can show 99% of things, run people through stuff, and it takes a minimum of time. I'm not there. If I was to move to this, I'm not there to PT people. I'm there to help just quick guide them through the next phase.
So again, it's like you've transitioned into this next level or this new level, and your space is reflecting it. That's what you're thinking. It's not there yet, but that's what makes sense, right? And that for someone who sees Nathan and they're like, oh, I see this problem that you solve and I like what you do, for them to walk in and see that makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's simple training, knows what he's doing. I don't need to go through 57 complex movements here. It's just, let's get a couple of things right, and he's got the space for that.
That's what you're doing. So I know that isn't necessarily marketing, but it's like that's putting the thought into the product and the problem that you solve, and then utilizing the space and the resource to make it make sense for your avatar. Again, it's
But I
like
think
just because you've, yeah,
so I think the space can be marketing, but not the way people think. The general like layout, the general style does market more for internal referral based marketing, because then people see the people that they think should be there, but also helps them see the people are not there. Because I think people want to spend huge money on these fit outs and these customizations because they think that's marketing and it's better. Whereas it's about subtle things that call people rather than these huge expensive setups.
yeah. Well, the space just like it reflects what internally is in your mind and what you
Yeah.
need to solve the problem. It's like that's. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I walk into chiropractors and they're like homey, but then they don't make sense. They're not sterile like a GP office, which is great. But then sometimes I walk in and I'm like, I don't know who you're trying to help here. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the most cornerstone for this is the traditional chiropractic logo. To this day, to 99.99% of chiropractors, and it's a take on the little S spine, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like people don't even see it. People are like, I got this great logo. It's like, you don't. Now, there's a few people, like, my logo is completely apparent. It doesn't even necessarily make sense as it's a chiropractic logo, but the whole point was to make people look. Now, I'm not saying it's a great logo, but it does make people look.
Mm.
I've seen some really good takes on the spine, but mostly what I end up seeing is these like, I look at one of the former clinics I was in, John Chiropractic, fantastic clinic, great people, great owner, but it's the spine logo and the catchphrase is maximizing human potential. It's a big draw for, not in a good way, like that's a big line to cross for people to understand. Like, I've hurt my back. Oh, spine, maximizing human potential. Like, does that do this thing? And that's not necessarily a critique, but could it be optimized better?
Yeah, it just needs to
I
make
believe that.
sense. It's
Right.
just like giving yourself the space to just sort of think through it. That's, I think, the biggest thing. And we're not giving ourselves the chance. We're just duplicating. And it's like, that's why you're struggling to sell the thing you sell, because you don't know what the product is. You haven't thought it through. It doesn't really make sense. Your marketing doesn't have like an anchor point. It's just all talking about what you do. It's like, imagine if a builder had a page and all they spoke about was like tool reviews. Like that doesn't sell houses.
No, no, and
Um,
isn't that? I believe that's in Storybrand by Bob Miller.
yeah.
He talks about the redevelopment of the website from the like painting crew that had like everything. Just a website littered with everything they do, all the philanthropy, all the support work, all the things. And he's like, we're getting all these hits but no sales. And they're like, we're going to change this website. And it's literally a picture of blank white wall and a guy with a paintbrush starting to paint. And it just says like, we paint everything, like message for a quote. And just like everything skyrocketed, right? It's like you're creating confusion. It was like that person I was talking about before with all the different options. You're just creating confusion. And the confused mind never buys. So like
Yeah.
my website, I try and have the minimum amount. Most people on their website, because most of your regulars aren't coming to your website to book, and just have book an assessment. Book an assessment. There's one CTA. It's to get your first assessment booked in. That's it.
And I'd say like by the time someone's on your website, yeah, they should just be booking in. I would argue
Yeah.
that an Instagram page for my demographic would be my website now, not
Yeah.
necessarily a web. The website's like to me is just a function. It's a
Yeah.
button.
It's a feed.
Um,
Like you just basically, you're feeding everyone to that page. And that's why most people, like myself included, like I have a link to my website, but it sits below my just direct booking link on my
yeah.
Instagram, right? Because most people just want to take that action. If you learn more about us, it's still there. But if you're here, you've probably learned a lot already. The only people you're probably going to get are more my era, up towards 40s now, where they want to have a little double check of the website, just a little subtle. Oh, do I see myself here? Ah, I do. Boom. All right, I'm going to move this over.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for your generation, like 99% of it's already done on social media. These days now you can index posts on social media like they would on Google. So that half your SEO is done through that anyway. So yeah, like I've got a part in the launch where I'm just like, website, here's all the details. If you're opening a practice right now, I'd have probably a single page sales page lander that is hosted at a minimum cost. And everyone's like, oh, you can tell things that are designed by AI. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who cares if something's designed by AI? The person looking to book in doesn't go look, oh, they're using AI to work the website. I'm not going to book in with them. If it gets them the information to book, single page lander, easy done. Yeah, long down the track, you might want to do a heap more work in terms of SEO, GEOs, and all these things. If you're a solo operator and you are just starting, dropping $6,000 on a website is some of the dumbest money you'll ever spend.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you said, I'd just run a booking link in my Instagram bio. That would be my advice. And yeah, okay. So if we don't establish the product, we can't establish the market and the marketing, and it's really difficult because you don't have the thing to talk about. So you're constantly trying to think of ideas to talk about. You can't talk about patients, which is like the only thing that you want to talk about because that's proof because of the laws. So you talk about what you do, and then no one cares what you do because they want to know what you can do for them. And
The
trying to
double edged
link
sword.
yeah, and then anything you try and link doing for them to Cairo then starts to walk the line of claims. So it's like, shit, we're in a pretty tight corner. So once you've built your product stack, then you can talk about the elements of the stack and how that affects the person and the problem that they're going through. And you can link those two things. And it's like, men's fertility, if this is an issue for you, these are the supplements people consider. And it's like, you don't go any further. You don't give any recommendations. It's just like, that's what exists. That's it. Getting 10,000 steps a day in has this effect on your body. That's it. Get some movement in. And all of a sudden, you're not just being like, men's fertility, get adjusted. And it's like getting adjusted in there somewhere, but it's not the direct claim. And it makes sense to people. And it doesn't just sound like you're trying to sell one thing to them. You're selling them a protocol and a solution to their problem, which is what people buy for. So that's the marketing problem discussed with the product behind it. Then if we move to sales, so let's say someone's nailed their product, now their sales process is failing. We both know it's truly a marketing problem. What I think the problem is the sequence. So everyone's assessing their ROF and they're going, I got a problem in my ROF. I need to get better at the script. I need to do this better. Whereas I would say the journey with the marketing's failed you.
Yeah, I think it can be both, but often they've got the wrong person in front of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's take a classic example in my mind, right? So I look at, and again, don't know him well, love the stuff he does. I believe he's your coach, your training coach, Ingram.
Oh, yeah.
Ingram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brad.
So I
Yep.
saw, yeah, shout out to Brad, love his work. But I saw something he said the other day where he's like, the hills he's going to die on, right? And listen, I may disagree with a few of them. That's why they're his hills. But one of them was sort of like, if people don't strength train, that's going to be their first prescription. Now, that requires you to have very specific people coming in to see you. Because if you get 65-year-old Judy who's never strength trained, has no interest in doing it, just wants you to put a hip back in, and you're like, hey, Judy, well, the research tells you that your hip's not out, and we need to get you doing some strength training for your bone density, and it'll make sure this doesn't come back. What you're going to end up with is Judy going, nah, and going to someone else, right? In fact, there was a literal study done at Murdoch University, which was comparison of, I believe it's like patient expectation and practitioner expectation. And my favorite quote is from, I believe it was a man in his 60s, 70s, who's like, I'm not paying you to teach me what to do. I'm paying you to fucking fix it. Which again is just reality of you've got the wrong person in front of you. It's the wrong person for Brad. That person's not interested in strength training, most likely. Though they should, and I agree it's a thing. And that's where I think manual therapy has its best thing to buy some result and some trust to then do it. But if Brad was getting all these people that have, and Brad, I hope you don't mind me calling you Bradley. If
No, he's good. Yeah,
stuff
he's
that
good.
he's all
Yeah.
right. I was like, I'm going to get DM here that's just like, how dare you? Brad is the name.
Yeah, you're 65-year-old with weak bones.
Yeah. Like, you have to be able to buy it. So now, again, he may get the mum of one of his patients who knows that he does these things, and he's going to take a different approach. But the point is a different referral than someone who's found him randomly on Google and been like, chiropractor, yeah, got to get my hip put back in, like I used to when I was in my 40s, come back through. It's the wrong fit. And like you said, that's the marketing issue, is that you've marketed to everyone, and then when they come in, they're getting the wrong thing. So again, there's no point in our mate that's doing male fertility. One, probably not targeting a lot of females. Would seem, and I'm not going to get myself in trouble and cancelled here, so I'm just going to say it would seem counterintuitive, right? So again, you have to market to the people, because then if you get a female come in, you're like, all right, so we need to work on your male fertility, and like these supplements are really good for sperm production. The best report on the findings in the world's probably not going to get the sale on that, right? If you do, I am here to learn from you, great master, on how you convince that one. It's a wild old time out here. But yeah, couldn't agree more. First and foremost, is the right person in front of you? Because if the right person's in front of you and they still are not converting, then there's probably an issue with the way you communicate. And that's really common. But I think one of the cornerstones issues is that people are not getting the right people in front of them first. And then they're constantly trying to change their like frameworks. Like, I don't necessarily like scripts, I like a framework of how we communicate. They're constantly trying to change from this, do this, because this will convert better. I'm going to use this word. But it's because they got the wrong people in front of them in the first place.
And I think, yeah, like even a step back from that is they don't know what the right person is to have in front of them. That's the real one.
Yeah. They just want
So
everyone.
like, exactly. So then like with Brad, and I've done work with him and that's why he has those hills. Because it's like, mate, you don't want a 65-year-old in your gym in front of you. Just accept that. That's fine. So actually start talking to the people that you want to work with. I work on, like when I send emails, I hunt unscribes. Like if someone unscribes from my email list, I am thrilled because then it's like they were never going to work with me. Perfect. I don't have to send that email to them anymore. So don't be afraid of cutting people out because that will pull more people in. That's the niching side. Niching
Yeah. Well,
side of
the
things.
same goes for reactivations, right? I often tell my staff because when you do a reactivation process, which if you've got a well understood product and a well understood system, a lot of reactivations are way better than new patients. But if people say no or they unsubscribe from your processes, my staff are, we annoying them? I was like, no, this is the best thing ever because now we don't have to waste time, energy, and money on see if they want to come back in. I mean, the door will always be open, but I'm not going to like a no and like you said, an unsubscribe is just a like, sweet, you were wrong for where I'm at. Go find your right person. I'll find my right people.
Exactly. So then, okay, so if we do go then into the sales process, in my mind, I think we need to change the word from sales process to inviting people to work with you. I think that just like psychologically makes a big difference. It has for me. If I get on a call now with someone and they don't know who I am and what I do, I almost won't even take the call. Like it's like, and I know this is a bit of a stretch, but it's like having someone actually know what you are about before they book in makes a huge difference in terms of your sales process. So again, it's like you can get 65-year-old Mary come in and then you decide that she's not quality, or you just be open and honest before they even come in. And Mary goes, well, that's just not the guy for me. Like they actually know what you're about. You've got a hill to stand on, as you said earlier. So I think half the selling problem is getting the right people in front of you, but then also like knowing what you do and what you're about. I don't really know why we hide, like frequency of care and commitment to care behind so many doors. Like it's the last thing someone says. I'd almost be inclined to send an email between the new patient and the report of findings and just be like, hey, this is exactly what I found. Here's what I think is going to go on. We'll go through all this tomorrow, but just a heads up, this is my plan. Like just tell them, because if they're sitting there in front of you at the ROF, they've already read that. So you're not going to get the typical objection. There's so many more layers to all of this stuff, obviously, but I think just transparency, which is again, it's like part of marketing, is just like telling people what you do, what your solution is, so that they know and they get to choose before you have that awkward 5-minute sweat session in a ROF.
I will challenge that a little bit because I think it's hard for people to understand frequency if they don't fully understand the problem. And so that's why I think for the report, unless you can educate someone about the problem and then explain the value they're going to get, it's hard to understand why you would spend the financial time, energy, money commitment without those things. Like it just defaults to, like we said before, it's like your only thing you tell them is like, oh, you got this problem twice a week for 6 weeks. You're not even telling them the result they're going to get and what's going to happen along the pathway, but they're just like, well, I want to spend the money on that. Though I do get like anyone who reads that and then comes is going to be highly optimized, but you will probably have a bunch of people that could have been good slip through because they weren't given the education first. But again, I don't think you should like on my website, it's going to be a process. How many visits? We don't know, but it's going to be more than one. Like it's that simple, right? And that's the same. Like even in my, like people often like in the initial, they're like, just talk about the report. Like, no, we're going to have to do this. I'm going to meet up with you and then we'll figure out what we do from there. My staff are like, people ask, normally you do an initial, then there's a report, and then you are going to be put on a care plan depending on exactly what's going on. That varies. Some people are coming once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. It all depends on you, but there is going to be a follow-up. And that way people know, right? Like you said, we're not hiding behind it, but I've always found it interesting with a lot of people that like don't do a report, where you do an initial and you're going to meet the person, try and diagnose what's going on, go do some form of treatment, and then without them even having a chance to see how it goes, trying to explain to them that they're going to need to do, multi-sessions a week for an extended period of time. Which is why I think, your models like that, which is more your physio model, they do more one-to-one booking of shorter periods. Whereas I think that's been one of the beauties of chiropractic is we really take the time to do an initial and an education visit to build people into it. So that would be my challenge to that. But I like the idea, and you shouldn't hide the fact. Like if your website doesn't talk about the fact that there is a process, I think people aren't like going to come in. Because like
Yeah,
people
why
need
not
to
just flat out be like, yeah, it's probably like we're looking at a 4 month, just on an average. It's like I'm not going to fix this in one, which I think
Yeah.
some people make the odd post about, but again, it's like referring to the adjustment. Where if it was like sperm cycle's 90 days, they know it's going to take 90 days. And that's
That's
not
like
a locked in thing. Everyone's different.
that's why we often contrast when we're recommending care to healing time frame. We've got muscle joint healing, so 6 to 12 week period depending on age, injury histories, all these kind of things. And that's just the baseline to get baseline healing. We're going to have 2 weeks where it's probably neural and inflammation. We're going to have again 4 to 10 weeks post that is more muscle joint, and then beyond that, ligamentous healing and things like that. Especially if we are trying to create a level of long term change and adaptation, is going to take X amount of time. Like my often laugh to these is the crew that I find that have the biggest challenge with explaining timeframes are often the ones that are, and again, I'm not going to pick on you because I think he probably does a great job of it, but Brad, you're the one in front of mine, but that gym training style of care, we all know, like anyone who spent some time under the barbell, your normal block is 6 to 12 weeks because that's what it takes for muscle adaptation. And that's just baseline muscle adaptation. That's not actual long-term change. And yet, I see a lot of the I'm going to air quote the word sports cars I know that are running these really short time frames, and I'm like, but how are you expecting muscle to? Muscle can't change in that time. No, oh, you can get early changes. Yeah, but that's not solution. That's just the first signs of change. And wouldn't you want to continue to evolve and adapt that? So yeah, like you said, it makes perfect when you explain that to people, especially if you understand your niche. You understand, like if you get a gym goer coming in and they've been in the gym for a while, they understand things take time. Hey, we need to add some muscle mass. I can't do that. You're gonna have to do that. And as you know, that works in 6 to 8 week blocks. We're gonna do a block and then we're gonna check in and we're gonna see what we need to do for the next block. It's not that hard.
Yeah. It's like the sales process is the final education and then how they want to pay for it. That's it.
Yeah.
I feel like people are, I don't know what they're doing. It's not educating, it's like convincing. That's when it gets a bit shitty. And I feel like if you're convincing someone, ultimately you're trying to convince yourself, which can go back all the way back to the product, which is you don't believe in the product that you're selling.
Yeah,
And
100%.
yeah, like we can touch on, as you said, it's not scripting, but it's what was it? Framing frameworks. Yeah, there's frameworks that need to exist. So Nath, in your launch stuff, what's the raw frameworks?
Framework, I use like a 9 point sort of block, right? So we go, and a lot of this is foundationally built around a good mentor of mine, Lawrence Tam, and then it's adapted through all the different things I've worked with and people I've worked with. But everything starts with a rapport. Doesn't matter what visit is, initial report thing. You got to meet the person first, right? Like it's person over procedure. Hey, Angus, it's great to see you. Eye contact, handshake. Let's sit down and talk about what's going on. I do like a quick review because I adjust on my first visit most of the time. How'd you go? And they're just like, they're going to tell me 1 to 3 things. They felt great. They felt the same. And my answer to all three is usually great because I've seen the research and we can look at that, the Ouch study comparing like harms in chiropractic. And it's like the research pretty much tells me that around 12 weeks after where they felt good, the same or worse, everyone's had a level of result. And it allows people to really, and I'll talk, hey, in 3 months, if we follow the plan. So they're already telling them we're going to be following the plan for at least 3 months. I also have done a check-in text in advance, get them going. And then I go through their logical brain. I'm going to tell them where we're at and what's going on. So it's like, these are your results. These are the results of any special testing, imaging, things like that. And then once we've built out, all right, here's where you're at and here's the future goals. This is where you said you wanted to be able to do. You want to pick up the kids. You want to be able to deadlift 200. This is where we're currently at. And so this is the gap we have to achieve. These are the things that can stop us. So we hit the things, time, energy, and money. I'm going to need to see you probably at least a couple times a week. Is that, can you get here twice a week? Cool. All right. Oh, it depends what it costs. All right, we'll talk about what it costs in a second, but can you physically get here? Because if you physically can't get here, there's no point in me recommending that way. I have a lot of crew that have fly float. They're here for 2 weeks, they're gone for 2 weeks. I have to redo my care plan. And then I just go, all right, which way do you want to go? We're going to sort this out, or we're going to stop it from coming back because that changes how I plan it. And then it's just like, here's one. We have an initial phase of care that moves into more of a proactive phase, that moves into more of a maintenance phase. The maintenance one's the lease frequency, and then I work it back down, and then I tell them exactly what my care plan is. I explain exactly from a value stacking point of view what we're going to do along each part of the phase so they know what they get and what's expected of them and what's expected of me. And then I just simply finish with a frame of, all right, we have payment options, so they can pay up front, they can do it in things, or they can just pay as they go. I don't care which one they do. As I said something the other day, if they pay as they go, and I technically make more, so it's not really an issue for me, right? It's just having that option for people. And then I adjust them and offboard them. Hey, Justin, hey, you can take you to my front desk. They're going to book everything in. They're going to look for your best days, get everything sorted up to make your life super easy. This is going to look like when you come in future. And then we're going to get going. I'm really excited to get this great result for you. Done. Right? Like my whole actual time in the appointment should take me the 10, 12 minutes, and then the adjustment on top. So my report's 30 minutes. Should be done, simple, easy. But basically, it's meet them, logical, emotional brain, so they can understand the opportunities we have ahead of us. Here it is. What do you want to do?
Nice. So I think ultimately it's not, I think too much pressure gets put on the scripting. And it's just like, if you don't believe the scripting, that's the core problem. So
Well, you're
build
gonna
your product first and then go from there.
you have real problems, right? It's easy to, if you have a framework, as I say countless times in launch, it's like the framework is there that on your worst day, when you're tired, whatever's happened, right? You can still deliver a great experience. What's the word I want? When you are on. You know those days you're like, it's when you go to the gym to deadlift and like someone turn gravity down, you just feel like the most powerful being ever. When you're like that in your practice, you don't need a framework. You are on. You can do whatever you want. You can go off frame, whatever you want. You just know you can do it. And the more people you have that are the right people in front of you, the more often that is a thing. But for those days where my kids haven't slept, they've been unwell, and I've had 4 hours sleep, the framework allows me to still deliver the right experience for the person in front of me because they're not there for my shit, right? They're there for theirs. And so that's why framework's great. That's why people do like scripts, because you just have to say the script. It's brain off. And that can work really well for new grads. When you're still getting a flow and you don't know who you are and you're like really prone to cop out on things, those can be really valuable. I worked in scripted practices when I was first out, but now I think the framework for a modern practitioner is just figure out how you communicate, because you can put you into it. Most of the scripts come from Americans, and bless our American brothers and sisters and everything else, they
Brothers and
don't talk the
sisters.
way they do not talk the way we talk. You try and drop that American thing, it's like, listen here, Mary, God's done told me that we're going to just, that ain't going to work, brother.
You said earlier, so we don't get cancelled, and then you've gone and done that.
But you know what I mean? You know exactly what
You got to do you.
Sure. We'll just wrap up. It's been an hour anyway. So yeah, I think that's bang on. So it's by the time you're in the sales process, there's a framework. Then but it's not like all on scripting. If you're really struggling there, the odds are that there's a marketing issue. And I fundamentally know that all chiros have a marketing issue because they have a product issue. So going back another step beyond, it's like, okay, now your product, now how you how you deliver that product to someone. And then by the time you're at sales, it's just like telling someone about the awesome thing you do and inviting them to come and work with you. That's all sales really is, with a couple of frameworks. Like obviously you have to tell them the price and the frequency and what's involved. And that's where the frame comes from. So yeah, and sales is something that everyone hates in every industry. But at least the industry we're in, we get to shape the product. We get to do it at an individual level. So we've actually got the best opportunity to make the best process and make it not feel like sales. We're just not thinking about it. So that's how, in our opinions, you'd go back and you'd start thinking about it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's it. Like I've said before, when you do a report of findings, you should just be handing a bar of gold to people. And if they don't take it, that's madness from them. But that requires you putting the right people in front of you and knowing what you're actually selling so you know how to deliver the result. It's really not that hard. Chiropractors like to make things hard. I think a lot of people like to make things hard. Like you said, we get to design our own product within constraints sometimes as an associate. I get it, but you still have a lot of control and adaptability. But it's not like you're selling buddy like door-to-door sale phone books or laundry powder back in the day where you're just like, here's things. Do you want some things? It's like, here's this
literally
awesome thing I love, I've designed. It's the thing I like, and I'd like you to like it too. Let me show you how it can help you, and this is what we're going to do.
And you're in my building. Like you're in my office, not the other way
come
around.
to me.
So yeah, literally. Yeah. Keep it simple. That's it's probably what we're doing wrong. Got too many sales conferences. That's the issue.
Yeah, everyone's been watching Alex Mosey and all the crew for too long right now. We're lost in making it too complicated.
Yeah, making a mince out of it. Sweet. Wrap it up there.